From South Riding, Virginia to the Gulf South Conference, Sarah Turner's journey is one filled with perseverance and passion. A veteran cross country and track runner in the GSC, a student journalist and broadcaster in the making, and an athlete who's battled health adversities to keep chasing her goals, Sarah's story is one of resilience and drive. You don't want to miss it as it's happening right now on Inside the GSC. Today on Inside the GSC, we are now joined by Sarah Turner, a senior at the University of Montevallo who runs both cross country and track and field and is also pursuing a career in sports media. Sarah, welcome to the show and thanks for taking some time to be here with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Like we were talking about it before, but I'm not used to being on this side, so it's definitely interesting. It'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from a sports media standpoint, there's always an opportunity, like you want to try to recognize others, but whenever we have an opportunity to recognize you, we want to make sure that we take advantage of it as much as we can.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that.
Sarah, we'll start things off. Just in your early childhood days, just growing up, you found a passion to play soccer, and then eventually you went into cross country and track and field. So talk to us a little bit about just those early days and just what drew you to playing soccer.
Yeah, I guess I don't really know what drew me specifically to soccer, but I started playing in middle school, late elementary school, and it was just a lot of fun. I liked the team aspect, and a bunch of the girls that I met were from around my area. I grew up in a suburb of Washington D.C., so very populated area, lots of people there, and everybody played sports growing up. It's just what you do. And I don't know, I just kind of fell in love with it. And then I didn't find running until high school. I wanted to, I feel like a lot of people have this story, but it's just I wanted to condition for soccer. So I tried out for the indoor track team my sophomore year of high school. And then I made it and I was kind of well, this is kind of cool. This is fun. And then I don't know, I kind of liked that team aspect more. Soccer can be a little bit more cutthroat, I feel like, and it's kind of subjective, I guess, a little bit when it comes to playing time and stuff. But track is just well, if you want to win, you got to put your fastest people out there. So that's how that worked. And then COVID happened and I lost that outdoor season. I kind of made that transition over into track, and I never ran cross country in high school. I only ran track. I have strong track background, 800, 400, a little bit of the mile, not really, but whatever. But yeah, and then when I was going through the recruiting process and stuff, they were like, "Well, we want you to run cross country here." And I was like, "Okay, I'll try it." So that's kind of how that came to be, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, was that like a recruiting pitch potentially with what Coach Barksdale was talking to you about, just in terms of that wasn't a deal breaker by any means, right? It was just one of those things where they were offering to see if you'd be willing to take it.
Yeah, it was definitely like that. They were just kind of I mean, it's always good to have more numbers in cross country, especially that's how you are successful if you have a deeper, more people on your team. So they were you could contribute as a freshman, and we think you would benefit from the training in the fall into the spring. So it's kind of that was the discussion there.
Growing up too, as you're playing soccer and then you made that transition to doing track and field in high school, who are some of the people that encouraged you on those early years? I mean, there's parents, but did you also have any role models or just sport athletes just that you looked up to growing up?
I mean, my high school track coach was he's still my best friend. I text him all the time, and we're every time I go home, I try to go see him, and he kind of really, I think, in that sense, because my sophomore year when I first started it, I wasn't very good, obviously, and then I kind of, especially over COVID, I think I stuck to it, and I was like, hey, this is something I want to be really good at, or try to be really good at, and I'm talking with him and his encouragement for me and how he believed in me. I think that definitely really impacted me in my career there.
As we were talking a little bit earlier, you did touch up on Coach Barksdale trying to get you to run cross country, and you made the decision to go to Montevallo. But just kind of dive in a little bit more, what first drew you to Montevallo? I mean, you grew up in South Riding, Virginia, in the DC area as well. But What drew you to a place that's just outside of Birmingham? And just, it seems like from a regional standpoint, it's like there's got to be a specific point as to why, or just, what led you besides just a program and getting a degree.
Yeah, I mean, like my whole like background of like into sports and like the sports I play and the sports I am like interested in like talking about, like it's all kind of intertwined. Like my family grew up big like SEC football fans, so like and obviously I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but that kind of impacted me. I've had a lot of family and family friends that live in like the Birmingham area, and we've been coming to SEC games down here for a while, so like that was a big draw. And then, so like I was familiar with the area fairly. And then, I don't know, I just like in the recruiting process, I was kind of like looking at schools in this area and like saw that Montevallo had a program for what I wanted to do, basically a really solid mass comm program. So I was like, well, this looks like it could be promising and I could contribute early on, which was something that was interesting to me too. But yeah.
When you first got out to Montevallo, and just kind of continuing on with that conversation, was there an immediate teammate or just a mentor that you had that was able to go in and get the transition? Because it feels like we all need that at some point when you're a freshman and there's somebody that you can look up to just for some guidance and advice. And there's always that one teammate that wants to help uplift and build others. Who was that teammate for you?
Yeah, I mean the culture here is just like so fantastic. Like everybody that's come through the program, especially as a senior that I've met that's been older than me, has like made an impact on me and the people that are younger than me too. And just like I mean the culture is just so great and the coaches work so hard to build that. But definitely as a freshman, I think Abby Snyder, I'm sure she'll watch this, but she ended up being my roommate and like she was my big in my sorority and she was kind of just so supportive and she's just one of the kindest people on the planet and she was really big about showing me what to do and being supportive for me. And my freshman year we lived like down the hall from each other in the same dorm, so I spent a lot of time with her. And I mean, yeah, she's just great. Miss her. She graduated last year, so
For sure. Sarah, I've always been curious though, because like just in terms of what the sorority lifestyle is like and just the dedication that it takes to practice and just make sure you're having a good balance between athletics, academics, and social life. But kind of just in your experience being in that sorority and knowing that there's obligations and some things going on, how do you look to try to balance just making sure you're doing your due diligence, making contributions within your sorority house while also trying to make sure you're competing to the best of your ability on the track and just whenever you're running?
yeah. I mean, I've always been somebody that's involved in like 18,000 different things, like and like still to this day, like there's just so many things I have going on all the time. So, I mean, I kind of lived that lifestyle in high school a little bit. So, like, I knew, like, I've had time management skills for a long time. So, that was just something else to add. And I think I wanted a group of friends. Like, obviously, I love my team and they're so fantastic. But, like, I think I wanted a group of friends outside of my team a little bit to kind of like distance myself from it just a little bit. Cause, like, I don't know, you can't be thinking about running all the time or else you're going to get exhausted. So, I don't know. It was good to kind of build that, and then leadership opportunities within my sorority. Like I've gotten jobs from people that have graduated who recommended me for stuff, which is awesome. And just like that kind of connection too is great. And I mean, the coaches are super understanding too, as long as you're communicating. And I mean, I've had to miss stuff in my sorority for a meet, which obviously happens, but that's like the sacrifices you have to make. But yeah, I mean, everybody's super understanding as long as you're communicating what you can be there for and what you can't be there for. And there's a ton of girls on the track team in my sorority too, so like a lot of people are in the same boat, which is cool.
Absolutely. So, with the events that you competed in, because you've done distance running, you've done relays, you've done or 5Ks, 6Ks, and whatnot. How do you balance training across so many different events? Like, is there really a difference between how you train, or is it kind of just all one thing where it's I just got to keep running?
I mean, it definitely depends on the person. I think for me, there is a big difference in the way that I train, especially from the fall to the spring. Like in the fall, I train with our associate head coach, Coach Julia, and then in the spring, I train with Coach Barksdale. So, like, just having a different coach from semester to semester is different, and they both have different training styles as well. And so, obviously, like for the 5K, you're training more endurance and aerobic capacity kind of stuff. And then in the spring, I transition over into the shorter events like mile 800. And so that's a completely different training style. It's more sprinting, more quick movements. And definitely a difference, and depends on the person though, because some people benefit from the same thing between both seasons. So it depends. But yeah.
For sure. I've always wondered about that because one follow up question I did have with that though was how has that experience just as you're doing different trainings, is the recovery process sort of similar the same way, or is it kind of you have different plans to try to recover before and after meets?
Yeah, I mean that also changes too between season to season, I think, because like I think a 5K will I'll be down for the count for longer than I am after maybe an 800, because that's 3 miles compared to half a mile. So it depends. Like I think my approach going into a meet probably isn't that different. I mean, I'm definitely more like nervous going into like a track meet because like those are like what I'm stronger at. So that's definitely something that I think about more. But I think the recovery process is ultimately the same. Like cross country, like it's a different kind of training. So, I mean, you just have to adjust based on, but the schedule is ultimately the same.
So now let's fast forward a little bit to just later that season. We're going back to 2023. You're performing, and suddenly something's not right. You feel something is just a little off balance. You're not meeting times. Just kind of take us through that portion in your season and just how it all panned out.
Yeah, freshman year, it was in the spring during track season, which is obviously like I prefer track over cross country. I still enjoy cross country, but track's my baby. But yeah, so we were running, and like the way I describe it still now is like I kind of just feel like I was running through soup, and I was really tired, and I like couldn't really make it through the day without a nap. And so my coaches were like, and well, then I had a really not very good race, and my coach was like, "We need to get this figured out. Like something's wrong. This is not you." And I was like, "Yeah." So I ended up going home and getting some blood work done, and I had pretty low iron, like iron deficient ultimately was the issue. So I was put on a bunch of supplements and iron supplements and vitamin D and magnesium and a bunch of B12, a bunch of stuff to try to improve that, and kind of picked back up a little bit at the end of freshman year. Not what I wanted ultimately, but the season wasn't a waste, I guess. So yeah, and then that's just kind of reoccurred every year, which is really unfortunate, especially in the fall. It tends to hit more than in the spring. It's it kind of in the midst of it right now. We're still trying to get it figured out and just haven't found a long-term solution to that problem yet, which isn't the best. But yeah, still figuring that out and just trying to fight through it.
You mentioned just now, like it feels like from a performance standpoint, it's like you're running through soup. In everyday circumstances, you're taking precautions, you're taking the right things to make sure that doesn't affect you. But how much does that potentially affect you throughout the day as you're going through classes and as you're going through day to day events and just what you're doing just on a daily schedule?
Yeah, I mean, the worst it ever was I think my sophomore year fall. What is this, my ferritin level? That's kind of what they check. It was at a 14, which is supposed to be like a 40. So that was the worst it's ever been, and right now it's kind of pretty low too. But yeah, I mean it's just hard to like make it through the day. Like you gotta like I have to find time to nap, and like a lot of the times I have a bunch of assignments or like other things that I should be working on rather than napping, and like doesn't really matter how much sleep I get. Like I always just feel tired. And I mean, especially from like a workout and especially a race standpoint, it hits so much harder. Like you can just feel it in a race. Like it just feels like you can't like move any faster, which kind of sucks, especially knowing that the times I'm running now are not even close to like what I could be running. So it's just kind of a little bit demoralizing, but just like figuring out how to make it through that.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into the next segue that I was going to ask through that. As somebody who's a go getter, that obviously has to mess with you at some point. As somebody who wants to continue to achieve, continue to make sure that you're doing the best you possibly can. But the support that you got, Sarah, I mean, some coaches in the collegiate realm, it would be like, some will have the capabilities of knowing that I have a student athlete who's in trouble. I got to see what's going on versus, oh, she's got some issues working out. We trust her enough to handle it and deal with it. But for you, it seemed like there was a backing and there was a support from the team. So just talk a little bit more, like just from the standpoint and just some of the support that you received from your teammates, coaches, and just that Montevallo community.
Yeah, I mean, especially at this point in my career, like I've gotten so much blood work done in the last 4 years, just trying to figure it out. And I mean, the coaches have been so fantastic about it. Like Barksdale even sent me a message the other day, and he was like, "We're not upset at you. Like we want to figure this out because we know what you can be and we believe in you." And that was really nice to hear, obviously from them. And then I think there's something to be said, like nothing on Coach Barksdale. I love him so much, but there's something to be said for having a female head coach on the other side, like Coach Julia, who coaches our women's program in the fall. She kind of understands it in a different way than I think a male coach might. She knows how big of an impact that makes. So yeah, and she's been awesome too and supportive through all of it, which has been great. And my teammates have been very kind and understanding. And I mean, we're low on numbers this year, so it'd be great if I could be at full strength, but we're working through it. Hopefully, it'll be better by conference.
For sure. And through that experience, how has facing this adversity of the iron deficiency, what has that done from a resolve, if you will, for want of a better term to describe it, in terms of how you approach races, how you approach life, and just, I guess, essentially, how has that shaped your thought process and how you do things compared to before you started experiencing the iron deficiency symptoms?
Yeah, I mean, I just had a conversation about this pretty much with Coach Julia the other day, and she was talking about like kind of there's something to be said for you just continually coming back and like towing the line and getting on the course and like knowing that it probably isn't going to go the way you want it to go, but like you still show up for your teammates and your team, which is admirable, I guess. And I mean, yeah, just I mean, knowing that I can go through it, like it probably won't be exactly what I want, but like I will finish and like I'll hopefully support my teammates up front and round out the back nicely. And just knowing that I can go through it. And I've done a lot harder things, I feel like, in my life too, than just like push myself through tough situations, especially, I think will carry me outside of school as well.
For sure. I mean, that's what makes GSC athletes special, right? Well, first and foremost for you, it's just Montevallo athletes and just the resolve and the confidence that you build. But overall, I mean, it's just a testament with other GSC athletes, just knowing how to compete and knowing how to continue to move forward, even in such harsh adversities in your situation.
Yeah.
So we'll transition now. We've gotten to talk a little bit about Sarah Turner, the athlete growing up to Montevallo, but now we get to a little bit more of the fun conversation side of it and just talk about your journey into sports journalism. And you got to ask the first question, in any situation, what led you or what was that defining moment that told you, this is where I want to work. This is my passion. This is what I want to do with my life.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this because I mean, a lot of people ask me that. So it's just, I mean, I kind of talked about it a little bit, but growing up in a very like SEC football household, like we had college game day on every morning. I grew up going to SEC games. So just like, I don't know. And when I was younger, I was like, this is kind of dumb. Like my dad would have it on and he'd be screaming at the TV and I'd be like, okay, this is crazy. But then I don't really know if there was a specific moment in that sense, but I kind of just started like paying attention more and I was like, this is kind of cool. Like I can watch some football, which is funny because I don't even go to a school that has football. But yeah, so I think I don't know, watching College Game Day growing up definitely shaped me, and I think there was like probably a moment in high school where I mean, one of my biggest people that I look up to Maria Taylor and Holly Rowe in the college football space, especially. But watching Maria Taylor on game day in high school, I was like, I think that's what I want to do. That's pretty cool. I like what she does, and yeah, Holly Rowe's awesome too. Watching her interview people, I love her skills and the way she handles stuff. But yeah, I think that's kind of ultimately what got me into it. And then just growing up in DC, like the sports culture there is pretty strong. Like I grew up going to Nats games and DC United and Caps and all of that. And so, yeah, being in a strong sports city was awesome too. I got to see the Stanley Cup run and the World Series run, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome, especially to that point, just, sport wise, you mentioned some really great names, Holly Rowe, Maria Taylor. And so it's great that you had at least, some role models and examples to look up to and just, knowing that through them and just feeling like that was, the niche and just trying to set your own standard and just, setting your own identity within sports it's absolutely fantastic. So looking into Montevallo, as you're looking for opportunities and stuff. Talk to us a little bit just about some of the experiences you've taken advantage of while you've been down there. I mean, obviously, as we mentioned earlier, I like to coin the term of the voice of the Montevallo Falcon, getting as much play-by-play experience and even from the collegiate realm and just having that sports media personality. You got a good, strong SID. Shout out to Wyatt Hall, Blake Jowers, and what they've done. But for you, Sarah, you've taken on a number of different roles from being an analyst, play by play, even doing some sideline reporting with them. This is sort of a loaded question, but talk to us a little bit how you first got involved with just getting that position and then some of the other opportunities you've taken advantage of while you've been at Montevallo.
Yeah, that's actually, I mean, it's kind of a funny story, I guess, but like it was like one of the first weeks of my freshman year, and like all the mass comm majors, there's like a mass comm major meeting that we do in like one of the first weeks, and like they were like, here's some ways to get involved, like in the department, whatever. And I was like, okay. So I went into one of the professor's offices, like probably like day three of class. I was like, hey, could I call some games maybe? Is that even like a possibility? He was like, yeah, you want to do it tomorrow? I was like, okay. Like I had no experience. I'd never done it before. That first one was kind of like a trial run. Like they didn't actually record anything. They just had me like on the headset, kind of like talking through stuff, I guess, because I had literally never done it before. And it was volleyball, which I had a lot of friends in high school that played volleyball. So like I'd been watching volleyball. I was like kind of familiar with it, but like I didn't know all the terminology. Um, and so yeah, that was kind of how I got into that. And I've been doing volleyball play by play, men's and women's basketball for the last 3 years. I did two acrobatics and tumbling meets last year, which was crazy. I still don't know entirely what's going on there. It's a super cool sport though. Very, very interesting, very cool to watch. And yeah, I mean, last year's men's basketball playoff run was so awesome. Like, and being a part of that was really cool. And our last home game with the quarterfinal against West Alabama, like that was the best environment I've ever seen, and that was so cool to be a part of. But yeah.
In your experience, Sarah, because again, you've had a robust amount of experience calling games. But for you personally, do you prefer being in front of the camera or just being the voice behind the scenes, like just calling things from a radio style?
Yeah, I mean, I like different parts of both of them, I think. Like sometimes I feel like I definitely get in my head a little bit more on like on the pregame and like the video and stuff and like a post-game interview or whatever, like because you kind of only really have one take. Like they'll do more than one take, but you know, probably don't mess up. Makes their everyone's lives a lot easier if you don't mess up. But then I mean also that's true for the live play-by-play as well, like trying to limit mistakes. And I mean there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. I'm sure you're familiar, but like boards, like I start working on those like 5 6 days out from the game, and like sometimes that's tough, especially in basketball season when men's and women's basketball are double header. So I've got 4 teams to do boards for, and it's just it can be a lot sometimes. I did men's soccer this past week, which was really fun. I'll do women's soccer next week. And yeah, I mean, just the prep, it's just another thing to add to my plate every week. But I really enjoy it. That's probably one of my favorite things that I do here. And I didn't mention this, I'm the sports editor for our campus newspaper as well. So that's been really cool because I've been able to sometimes incorporate stories I get for that into a broadcast, which is really fun, getting those like more in depth conversations. And I feel like I've got to make a lot of connections through with other athletes through that, and having them talk to another athlete is something that I think is important, I guess, because I think our last sports editor wasn't an athlete, which she was great, but yeah, I think that's been really cool too. Another fun thing to do.
Which is a perfect segue to my next question, Sarah, is in that case, you just said it right there. With sports editors and those that cover sports, sometimes they're just good writers, some are beat writers, and they're passionate about sports, but they don't have the athlete's perspective on that. And for you, who's done cross country, track and field, and of course soccer in high school, how does being an athlete yourself give you a unique lens when you're trying to share those stories about others?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously know what it's like from that end, especially being in a sport that's year round too. Like we don't really get an off season other than summer. So just like knowing like their scheduling and kind of like knowing what an athlete's mindset is, I think is definitely helps my vision on like how I'm gonna build a story or pitch a story or whatever. And it can be a little difficult here, especially sometimes where like the sports culture maybe isn't as strong as like other in-state schools. Like there's still a good community around it, but sometimes it's a little bit hard to build interest. And I think that's kind of been my goal in the last 3 years, especially because I started that sports editor role my fall of my sophomore year. And that's been something that I've tried to do is kind of like maybe bridge that gap a little bit between the athletes and the people who aren't athletes on campus and generate interest and share the stories of like, oh, that person sits next to me in class. I didn't know they were the leading goal scorer on our soccer team or that kind of thing. So, yeah.
And again, in our industry, it's all about uplifting others, right? It's all about making sure that we're not just sharing their stories, but just, trying to put a spin to it versus everyday professional media where they just call it as it is, whether it's positive or negative. And I think it's one of those things where, if we get back to those fundamentals, that things in collegiate athletics would be a whole lot better, I think, if we just continue to find those positive terms, just the positive stories and just saying things for what it is, but also just making sure that as we're discussing these pieces, it's all about different points. Just like with this podcast, and what we're doing is just trying to share the best of the stories and just highlighting the essential pieces to who that person is. So looking ahead, you're a senior, you got, last season things coming up, and then post graduation, what are some of the personal goals you have, just well, first off, just to kind of keep things a little bit more chronological order, do you have any specific personal goals from cross country and or track and field this season you would like to see accomplished?
Yeah, I mean, I think cross country, it'll be a little bit difficult to dig myself out of this right now, but just like contributing to the team as much as I can, especially with the numbers we have this year. So just being as big of a factor as I can be this fall, it's gonna be big. And then looking into the spring, making sure I'm healthy and can compete to the best of my ability. And I don't know, just I think just having good performances at conference, especially showing up in those moments, hopefully scoring at conference and whatever an event I end up running. But yeah, hoping for a good track season and a good end of the fall season. It's crazy that it's already like halfway over.
Yeah, especially with cross country, it almost seems like if you look at a calendar span, it's like all your races are within a month, and then that's sort of it. And then it's like, okay, well, what are we doing next for track and field? So, and to that point, Sarah, are there certain GSC meets, whether it's cross country or track and field, that you're especially excited about? Because there's always the home events, there's always conference championships, but depending on how the schedule is, there's always one that everybody looks forward to. And it's like, that's the one you have circled on your calendar where I want to make sure that I'm performing my best for that meet. Do you have any kind of events on your schedule that you have circled that's like, oh, I can't wait for this when it comes up?
I think I've had some really good performances in the last, I guess, pretty much all 3 years so far at indoor conference, which has been really cool. I ran a mile PR at indoor conference last year, which is awesome. That was really exciting. So I guess, I mean, I'd like to carry that into outdoor conference because I haven't been as strong in outdoor conference in previous years. So probably outdoor conference, I guess, which is so far away right now. Like, I think my coaches wouldn't be thrilled at me for saying that. But I mean, and it's at home, which is super exciting. So like having my last track meet at home will be really special, and graduation's that weekend too. So getting to graduate and then compete for the last time, I'm excited for that.
Talk about the storybook ending when it comes to collegiate athletics.
Yeah.
And, once we talk about the storybook ending and just closing that chapter, then we talk about plans and what you have coming up, just post graduation and stuff. I know we were talking a little bit off there that you may have been considering grad school, but talk to us a little bit just in the here and now, Sarah. Like, what does the future of Sarah Turner look like beyond graduation and just in terms of what you're looking to do specifically?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm like college football is like dream. Like anything in the college football space would be awesome, but like I feel like in this industry, it's important not to like set your sight on one specific thing because it's kind of just like whatever opportunities you're given. It's just like okay, this is what I need to do. And I mean, in the last year, really, I've had like 3 or 4 internships in the last year, so I've gotten to like explore a lot of different sides of that. I did an internship in the spring with this company called Voice in Sport. It's like a women's sports empowerment company, and they're just trying to keep women in sports because that's a problem is girls dropping out of sports at a young age. So they're doing that, which I thought their mission was really cool, and I got to do a lot of cool things with them. I got to cover Women's March Madness in Birmingham, which was super cool. I got to talk to Dawn Staley. And in the summer, I interned in the Cape Cod Baseball League, which was also really awesome. But I was doing more like social media creative video there, which I didn't have a ton of experience with either. So I've gotten to like explore a lot of different facets in that this summer, just kind of really trying to narrow down what I want to do. And then obviously the writing thing. I mean, I've been doing stuff for the Shelby County Reporter for a little over a year now, which has been fun covering high school football and stuff, which is, I mean, there's so much talent in this area in high school football. It's been really cool to kind of see that and like see where these kids end up committing to colleges and stuff. And like, oh, I saw that kid play on Fridays in high school, which is really cool. But yeah, I mean, goal is like play by play analysis kind of stuff for really whatever sport I get the opportunity to do. I've really grown to love basketball over the last few years as well. Like, I think it's so exciting, especially, I mean, our teams here are really awesome, and our basketball coaches here are really awesome. I love both of them, Coach Chapman, Coach Camara. They're so cool. So yeah, I guess just whatever opportunities are thrown at me, grad school, hopefully, barring anything crazy. So in the near future, but yeah.
One thing that caught my attention as you were mentioning your internship, Sarah, was the women in sports. And to your point, I feel like when it comes to just opportunities just for women and just everybody in general, you always want to make sure that you're giving them, as much experience and opportunities because, regardless of who it is, when it comes to the industry, they're looking for experience. And sometimes you got to create your own experiences or find the right organizations that can get you those experiences. But what would you say to young aspiring girls and women that are looking to potentially also be play-by-play announcers or just broadcast talent? What would you say to them in terms of just how to get your foot in the door and how to get things going?
Yeah, I mean, that's been something that's been important to me forever is female athletes and women in sports and keeping that door open for people like me potentially because I mean, I haven't had any like crazy experiences with it yet, but like obviously I feel like women probably have to prove themselves a little bit more in this space than men might have to. And yeah, I mean, I think it's just about like kind of as you said, like creating your own path and doing what literally whatever you can to like get that experience and get in what you need to get in. And I mean, that's kind of what I've had to do here because if you're just doing your classwork and just like going to class and submitting your assignments, like it's not really enough. Like you have to get involved in as many things as you can, especially in like the mass communication major industry to like get that kind of experience. And yeah, I think just getting those opportunities, making those connections has been super important for me. And I think is important for anybody really. So
Sarah, again, we want to thank you for just taking some time to be with us and just sharing your story and just sharing your aspirations and just the current origins of what we're expecting to be a potentially great career for you. But before we let you go, we do have a couple of rapid fire questions we want to throw your way. First question we have is when it comes to races and cross country meets, what's your go-to pre-race ritual or if you have a certain hype song that you like to play before you start running?
I have four hype songs, so I'll just say "Nice for What" by Drake has been my song since like junior year of high school, so that's a must listen.
There are different marathons out there and everybody looks forward to certain 5K races and whatnot. But for you, is there a dream event that you would like to potentially want run in one day outside of the Gold Style Conference and just what that might look like?
I'm not gonna lie, I have no desire to ever run a marathon. Not in my wheelhouse. I like the shorter stuff, but I guess yeah, I'll probably hit some track or road 5Ks post graduation. That's what a lot of my teammates end up getting into. So not necessarily a dream event, but definitely like I want to keep involved in the world of running. Not as involved as I am now, but definitely have a foot in the door.
What's harder, in your opinion, trying to run the last 200 meters of a race or waking up to the first 6 a.m. practice of the season?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, I probably the last 200, especially of an 800, it feels, oh my gosh, it feels like the longest 200 meters of your life. Because especially for like the first 6 a.m. practice, like all summer, you're waking up to beat the heat really to run. So you're kind of used to it at that point a little bit. So yeah.
That's fair. If you could pick one word to describe GSC competition, what word would that be?
Just like relentless. I mean, there's so many talented athletes in this conference across all sports, and just like looking outside now, like, I mean, just knowing what I know about all the different sports that I'm involved in here, and then the competition that comes in to play us, like, I can see it all. So it's, I mean, I know how talented this conference is across all levels, and now I'm writing for the Stroud Report too, which has been cool. Another that's a division, or it's a uh, track and field news outlet company, and I mean, I've covered a lot of Lee. Obviously, they're very talented. So just like looking at that kind of stuff too. I mean, it's insane.
And I know you were mentioning earlier you looked up to Holly Rowe and Maria Taylor as some of the idols, but which sports announcer would you love to see potentially call a conference meet or, a race or a championship in that regard?
That I mean, I have a lot of idols within all the different sports too. I mean, I watch a lot of pro sports, so I mean, I love Chris Fowler though. I think like he's awesome. Just and his versatility too. Like he does tennis and football and a little bit of basketball sometimes. So I mean, he's awesome. I would love to see that.
Sarah, thank you again for taking the time to be with us. We really do appreciate you again sharing your story and just talking a little bit more about just the broadcasting realm of things and then just sharing some of the adversities that you've overcome. We're looking forward to seeing some great things from you this upcoming senior year with cross country, indoor track and field. Obviously, in Montevallo, you're in the area, so great opportunities to see you thrive. And we'll be looking forward to seeing some great things coming from you over the next few years and beyond.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Inside the GSC. Don't forget to hit like, share, or subscribe wherever content can be found so you won't miss highlights, stories, and more. So long for now, and we'll see you back here next time on Inside the GSC.